fans are up here.
I'm here for it.
It's all about what's up here and what's in here.
Sportsnet, here for hockey.
You're watching Rogers TV. You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
No, that's too bright.
Hi, and welcome to Third Eye View. My guest today is Gaby Pineda.
Yes.
Yeah, have to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Anyway, Gaby, not only is Gaby a psychic medium, but I have trouble with, I'm having an issue with glasses here. So if I'm, when I'm on the screen, I have to wear these glasses, but to read anything, I'm supposed to have other glasses. So, oh boy, I'm telling you. Anyway, but you also do past life regressions, medical, intuitive, Reiki. Now, and you have written a book.
Yes, I have.
And that is one of the things I would really like to talk about first.
Amazing.
Gaby, well, first of all, welcome to Third Eye View.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Okay, now I should warn you, I tend to go all over the place.
That's fine.
Wherever spirit takes us.
Exactly.
Okay, your book. Now, your book is called Believe?
Yes, it is.
All right. What prompted you to write your book?
Spirit.
Yep, I get that one.
Yeah. I've actually been working on another book, which is coming out at the beginning of the year, hopefully, if I can get it done between now and Christmas. But I've always been prompted to write. Writing is my creative outlet. And I started that book when I was just out of university. I was working at a hotel in Toronto. I got bored out of my wits. And so I started writing on little pieces of paper about my life because I hoped to one day write this book for my children so that they could understand everything that I'd been through and overcome, so they wouldn't take things for granted. And, because I have a lot of appreciation for the work that I've done. It takes a lot to overcome trauma. Needless to say, I went to see a psychic back then, several psychics. I was very young and relied on psychics quite a bit back then. And they all told me that I was going to become a very well-known writer. And I thought they were out of their mind because even though I was working on this thing, I didn't expect to sell it to anyone. It took me over 35 years to come up with a final piece that will be published because I now understand. I didn't understand back then. I thought it was writer's block and I thought there were a lot of things. And I now understand that I needed to write the book from an empowered perspective versus a victim perspective.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because now I can walk people through what I did to help myself out of the circumstances and the effects of the trauma, which run very deep and very wide for many people. Yeah. Even if we try to repress that, it eventually comes up and we need to deal with it.
We do. Yeah. If you don't mind me saying this on air, I am being given the number 3, and I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, if it means you're going to write 3 more books or there will be a total of 3. But you're definitely not finished writing. And I think, personally, I think it's going to be another 3 books minimum.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was about to start working on the final version of that book, and all of a sudden Spirit said, you've got to write 1 book before this. And I said, what do you mean another book? and they said, talk about your experiences as a psychic and as a medium, because no one ever taught me how to be a psychic or a medium. Yeah. And it was more from the perspective of showing appreciation for the miracles that happen in our life every single day, but we don't notice that they're miracles. I heard someone talk recently about the story of somebody who asked God for help, and they were in the middle of like a flood, and God sent them the boat, the helicopter, all of these, and they kept turning everybody away, saying, I'm waiting for God's help. And then the person passes away and then gets to the pearly gates and says, God, I waited for your help. And God says, I sent you a whole bunch of stuff. I know. And you didn't accept it. So many times as we're going through life, we don't actually acknowledge that these serendipitous events are actually God's help, Spirit's help, our own higher self helping us. So this book was meant to show, from the time I was 3 years old, even from my birth, that everything was very different for me. And I was a very different child. My circumstances were very difficult, but I've come to understand that the more difficult the journey, the more of a challenge we chose as a soul, but also the more empowered we can become.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, something that you said there, that we choose, our soul chooses this journey. Yeah. Born. And I believe that very much.
Yeah.
And, your story about the person I was given that story, God, over 30 years ago. And about John, and they sent him, like you say, they sent him all the help, and he kept saying, nope, I believe in God. God will save me. Yeah. And so often, and like you say, and then when he gets to the pearly gates and he said, I believe in you. Why am I dead? And it's, well, I sent you this, I sent you that, I sent you the other. What are you looking for, a miracle?
Yeah.
And there's so often that on a daily basis, we don't recognize, as you said, we don't recognize these things that Spirit has brought to help us. Mm-hmm. And sometimes even obstacles, they're brought to us for a reason, for us to.
Yes. Yes, I always say rejection is God's protection.
Yes.
And I've met many people who are very upset. Even I, when I was younger, would get upset. Things didn't go my way, the way I wanted them to go. And I realize now many wonderful things were on the other side of my way. And we need to get out of our own way most of the time.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I've learned that one the hard way. Because if you don't listen, you get what I refer to as a cosmic kick. And it's where the universe steps in and it gives you that kick in the backside that you need. And it's like, come on, open your eyes.
Come over and offer them the help.
Yeah.
They say, oh, no, that's just not going to work for me. How do you know? You're being offered the help, sometimes even free, and they turn it down.
Yeah. Oh, I know I'm guilty of having done that in the past too. And even now. Yes. And it's like, oh God, do I really want to do this again? Do I want to go through this? And, like with what you're saying, if it's something that we're meant to do, the universe will open the path.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we were meant to, they wouldn't waste their time or energy on it.
Great. The metaphor that I use with clients is our job is just to follow the breadcrumbs, but Spirit takes care of everything else.
Mm-hmm. Now, so the book that you've written, the one that's out now, that's available, yes, is about self-empowerment.
All my books really are about self-empowerment. Even the books I've written that I use for Reiki, they're all self-empowering books.
Okay. Now, if somebody is interested in purchasing your book,
it's available on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
They just look up Believe, do a search, Believe by Gaby Pineda, and the several options will come up.
Good. Now, is it available on Kindle as well, or just in book?
Yes, it's available in hard copy, soft cover, and Kindle.
Okay, that's good to know.
Mhm.
And now you do many things,
Yes,
as most of us intuitive people do.
yes.
One of the things that you do, that past lives, and past lives has always intrigued me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how it can affect us on a physical level,
Yes.
but our past lives, I believe, can also affect us on that mental emotional level. Is that correct?
Very much so. I came across past lives really by guidance from spirit. I was doing a reading on an individual, and actually it had to do with physical pain. She had pain in her hand, and spirit showed me that she was going to all of these specialists and nobody could help her with the pain in her hand. And when I tuned into that, spirit showed me that this had to do with a past life injury. And so I described the symptoms exactly, and she said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm sensing. And when I do readings, I feel their pain in my body, and that's how I'm able to describe it as well as I do.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, okay, so you need to know that the reason none of the physical treatments that you're getting are working is because this is past life. It's an energetic cyst from a past life injury. And I luckily had my tuning fork with me, and I showed her, I ran the tuning fork over her hand a few times, and the pain went away. And she said, oh my God, what just happened? And I said, we just dissipated the intensity of that energetic cyst. And nothing physical was going to work because it's not a physical pain or a physical injury. It is an energetic cyst from a past injury that doesn't exist in this realm, but it did exist in that one. And for whatever reason, you brought it with you. Mm-hmm. And so then she wanted to know where she could buy the tuning fork. And then she saw the prices of the tuning forks and she went, whoa. Don't worry. There's other ways that you can treat on an energetic level. And then I talked about Reiki and other options that she could use. Mm-hmm. But it was eye-opening for her. And I do what spirit tells me every time. I try not to let my logical mind get in the way because they're not as effective readings. Yeah. And more and more, the past life connection started coming up for clients. On the mental, emotional, I talk about this in the book as well. Mm-hmm. For myself personally, because of the trauma, and some of that trauma was abandonment by my mother. My mother abandoned me when I was a year old. She left us to take care of my grandmother. And then at the age of 12, when we were in this country, she abandoned me to take at the age, I was 12 years old and I was left to care for my sister and brother who were both deaf. And so when people think, oh my gosh, a 12-year-old has to take a cab, drop them off at the school bus, pick them up, go shopping, go to the bank, but that was me. And I didn't know any other life, any other way of doing things. I was given the responsibility. I took it on. I didn't have a choice. And for a long time, when my mom came back, she wanted to set rules for us. We ended up going to foster care, of course. And when my mother came back for us, she tried to establish rules, not establish them, but I guess she wanted to me particularly, to follow them. And I just said to her, you don't get to do that. Not when I've lived on my own for so long. Mm-hmm. And what came out of that is years later, I did a past life regression with one of my mentors, and I went back to the time where I was my mother's mother in France. I was married to a very well-to-do businessman, and I had 4 children with them. My mother was one of those children. But because it was an unhappy marriage, I would take off first thing in the morning on my horse and go into town to help the people that worked for us, that worked the land for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a healer. And I wouldn't come back until it was nighttime because I just didn't want to face my unhappy life. And helping others gave me purpose, gave me joy. It was passion. But I didn't understand the effect that that was having on my children. And so when I refused, and my husband got in trouble from the Crown because I was helping the poor and that was not allowed. And the peasants, the workers, were not to receive any help from the Crown. So he begged that I would stop helping them, and I refused. So I was killed as a result of that. That was another way of abandoning my children. And when I understood the dynamic between my mother and I, and that in this lifetime I chose to come in as her daughter and experience what I had done to her, it completely changed my perspective on the victimhood, my mom abandoned. It opened my eyes to a different way of looking at things. And I was very grateful for it. So when I do past life regressions or even past life readings today, the intention is to understand and help us navigate our life today, because otherwise there's no sense in going back.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. Now, years back, I had a regression done, and my mom in this lifetime apparently had me burnt at the stake as a witch. Past life.
We've all been a witch at one time or another.
I know. So I figured, oh yeah, I came back to haunt her. Teach her some lessons. But it was funny because even in this life, my mom, and when I think of some of the things that she had said to me over the years, it made that regression make sense. When I first spoke to her about me seeing things, and when I realized, because I just thought it was normal, and then when I realized it was not so normal, because not everyone else was doing this, and I spoke to my mom, and it was, oh, shh, nope, you mustn't say anything. You'll have to go to the psychiatrist if you do. And then years later, when I started doing this as a full-time job, career path, her response is, well, that's nice, dear, but don't tell anybody. So again, with her, there was that fear that, this is not a good thing because I can lose my daughter this time. And I think seeing where she had made that wrong choice in a past life, but I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah.
With the dynamics that her and I had.
Definitely. It really does help to understand those dynamics.
Oh, it does. It does. And, over the years, I have tried with a couple of different people, past life regressions to see where we fit in together in a past life. And one of the more, I say, comical ones, because it really was using a mirror, doing it with a mirror. And my friend David, him and I decided that we were going to try this to see where, because we knew we'd been together before, to see if we could tap into a past life. Now, when you're doing it with a mirror, you put your focus on, your reflection disappears. And this is where you have to throw the logics away, and then you come back in as you were in a past life. Well, David, he used to wear dark rimmed glasses. And it was, we sat together, had a big long mirror propped up on 2 chairs. I disappeared. He disappeared except for his glasses. And these dark rimmed glasses were floating around in the mirror. So that brought him back right away. He was laughing. And I lost it, but I got back in.
Yeah.
I was in a basement, and I kept yelling out, "Get Father John. Father John he'll help me. He'll understand." Because apparently, I can't remember the whole thing, but apparently the woman of the house had accused me of flirting with her husband or something. So I was shoved down in the basement. But
Mm.
my reflection, uh, I put my hand up to the mirror, and even my hand was different. The reflection of the hand, and in the reflection, I had long jet black hair,
Mm.
which is funny because when I was born with jet black hair, and
Wow.
within 2 weeks, it all fell out and came in blonde.
Interesting.
Isn't it? And I just thought of that now. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, when you start learning about past lives, and you can think about things in this lifetime, and it's like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now, past life regressions, you only do in person, is that correct?
No, I do all of it online.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's good. Now, if someone wanted to get hold of you, again, if you can give us your contact information, if
It's
someone wanted to book a reading with you, a past life.
absolutely. Yeah, GabyPineda.ca. So Gaby, B as in baby, P as in Peter, I, N as in Nancy, E, D as in Donald, A.ca.
Wonderful. And it's now you have, it says here on your card, okay, I am fearless transformation. What is that? And what is that about? Is that connected with your book, or?
It's connected with everything that I do. I believe that my goal, my purpose in this lifetime is to empower others. And the majority of the people that I do work with are women, but I don't turn anyone away unless I know for sure I can't work with them. And I'm very honest about that. I do have a very high level of ethics, but my whole idea, because of what I've been through as well, and the journey that I've been through, I want to help people step into their power, let go of people pleasing, let go of being afraid of being a bitch, and just putting everything aside so that they can really become the individual, the authentic individual that they're meant to be.
Yeah, and I do think that that's important. Now you have a workshop or something coming up. You were telling me that, or something you're going to be speaking at.
Mm-hmm. It's I'm going to be at the National Women's Show in Toronto the weekend of November 8, 9, and 10. And I've got a booth there with the natural relaxation method, which is the protocol that I use to help people overcome their fears, worry. For women that are going through menopause, I help them manage the waves of the menopausal storm, as I call it, and I call it from monster pause to menopause. That's another book I'm working on. And just, again, helping them transition and bridge the gap between wanting to change with all their issues that they're dealing with to actually changing. Because as much as I love talk therapy and other techniques, the meditations, the breath work, they all work, but there's always a little something that fails to bridge that gap. And I found this method actually does that. And I've tried many, many methods. I took whatever I found worked best with my client, with my one-on-one clients. And now as I'm transitioning more and more into group work, I took only the best, the most effective ones, put them together into the protocol. And usually within 5 to 10 sessions at most, clients are able to overcome whatever it is that they would like to work on.
Wow. And you mentioned about menopause, and I think that talking about that, writing about it is really important. My daughter, she's on LinkedIn as well, and she was part of a conversation a couple of weeks ago about women at work and menopause and how it affects everything and how it affects. And the comment that she had put, and I'll be honest, I hadn't really thought about it when I was going through it, and hadn't thought about it until I saw it in black and white where she had written it, and she had put that again when her mom, me, was going through menopause, it wasn't something that we talked about. And we just had to go through it very quietly. And I do remember I tried asking my mom about it, and she just says, "Oh, I don't remember." Well, that doesn't help me. But, being able to share, to talk to someone about, "Ooh, this is how I'm feeling. Is this normal?"
Yes. Yes.
What should I be doing? And I do believe this is something that's important. There's a lot more that women need to talk about. Because
Absolutely.
over the years, there is so much that has been held in. And, the idea with you, doing your, the empowerment is so important, Gaby, because a lot of women, you lose it.
Yes.
And the ways with society. And things are really opening up now. And I do believe that that's important because I know with me growing up, it was back in the time where you just women didn't say too much.
No, you were brought up, you speak only when spoken to kind of thing. Even in the 80s, when I was growing up as a teen, it was women were kind of looked at still as an object, an object of beauty, an object to be shown and seen, but not heard, and seen only when you were kind of allowed to be seen. And even with the 60s, the feminist movements in the 60s, I don't think a lot shifted. Women also have a tendency to put themselves last when it comes to family, especially if they've got children. And I think it's an amazing. If you look at it, there's a lot of self-sacrifice that goes on, and moms are amazing, but the self-sacrifice doesn't serve anyone. Women feel very guilty when they're looking after themselves first before their family. And what they don't understand is that they need to do that so that they can serve their family and all the other interests that are around them, all the people they serve. They need to be okay first before they can give to anybody else. But there's so much guilt involved with that.
What is the river? And I know this is something that comes up a lot for me in readings with women. And I know when I was younger and I was a mom, and you see things at a different perspective when you get older. Plus the fact times have changed. And now I can sit here and say, you know what? You really need to take time for you, because if you don't, it will affect you when you get older. Yeah. And then you're going to sit back and say, well, you know what? They would have turned out just as well. Yeah. I would have been healthier and not so tired, but having to take that time. But I do want to take this conversation a little bit further. But first of all, we do need to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to explore this one a little bit more, because I think that this is important. Wonderful. All right. Because even grandmas, get into this. And that's something I want to talk about too, because age group. Oh, yeah. We're so used.
Here are 3 reasons why your social strategies should include Rogers TV. Reason number 1 is we have hyper-local audiences. The community TV channel gives you a chance to engage with people where you live, so you really get to know your neighbors and they get to know you. Reason number 2 is we can help diversify your distribution. With social media, it's really important to be able to have a wider audience, and Rogers TV can actually help complement your online presence by delivering to a different audience. And it's actually really easy to repurpose your existing content or to just create new material specifically tailored for community TV. And finally, reason number 3 is we can help enhance your credibility and your trust. And by aligning your brand with Rogers TV, you can tap into that trust that viewers have. This can boost your reputation, especially among viewers who favor local businesses and value community involvement. 1, 2, 3. It's that easy to build your local audience with Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm David Shearman, host of Politically Speaking on Rogers TV. Join me this fall for more interviews with our local, provincial, and federal politicians. Politically Speaking on Rogers TV.
Hey, welcome back. Anyway, I do want to continue our conversation. And one of the things that Gaby and I got talking about during the break was grandparents. And like I said to you, I love my grandkids. I love them with all my heart, and I wouldn't trade them for anything else. However, I've done my thing as a parent.
Yes. I agree with you.
Yeah. And, the way I look at it, grandchildren are our reward for having been a parent. And, like Gaby was saying too, and men do this too. There are men that do this, but this is mostly women because we are the healers. We are like the natural healers. We are the natural nurturers.
Yes.
And I see it in readings so many times, and it's like, oh, for heaven's sake, you've got to take a break. You've got to put yourself first once in a while, because if you take a weekend away from them, your family's not going to fall apart.
No. I as I said before, I don't think that grandparents should be free daycare. And even if they say, oh, but I love my grandkids, I love taking them. Yes, my grandmother was my second parent for many, many years. And I appreciate everything she did for us. Had it not been for her, I don't know if I'd be here today. But at the same time, you have done your job as a parent. You have, you've done everything you needed to do to empower your children. And I do believe that you deserve to have a life outside of being free daycare.
Absolutely. So, we've put in our time.
Yes.
And now it is our time to do, to do what we want to do, what we're meant to do.
Yeah.
And I see so often where women, oh, well, I would like to, but I have to look after my grandchild, or I have to babysit. No, you don't.
No, and they're afraid to say no to their children. Sometimes this comes up because they don't necessarily have the best relationship with their child, their grown adult child. And in order to overcompensate or make up for the mistakes that they made as a parent, they give too much as a grandparent, and that grown adult child takes full advantage of it, which isn't fair.
Yeah. Now, I did this 2 years in a row, and I said to my daughter, like, I can't do it again. It's just it's too much. But I went down and I stayed with my grandson for a week so that they could take a holiday down in Mexico. And, I did. I enjoyed it. I had a wonderful time. But boy, was I tired when I got home.
Yes. The energy levels just aren't there.
No.
And, it's different when you are looking after maybe even a teenager. When they're young children, they require a lot of attention, a lot of hands-on work. And it's very, very draining. I remember with my own nephews, my stepmother was exhausted by the time they left. And as much as we both loved them, it was a complaint, but she never wanted to say anything about it because she was afraid that she would never see her grandkids again.
Yeah. Well, we had a granddaughter come and live with us for a couple of years. And, one of the hard parts is as a parent, you've got those little babies and they learn your ways and you teach them your way as they're growing up. Mm-hmm. You get a teenager all of a sudden move in that has not been under your guidance.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean you're not going to eat what I put in front of you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And things like that. And we did. I had to send her home because it was way too much for me. It was just too draining. It was too hard. And it's like, I'm too old for this.
Yeah. And sometimes, and I've come across this a lot in readings where unfortunately the grandparent has to take on the parental role because the parent either has mental health issues or addiction issues and they just can't look after their children. That's a totally separate situation. Very, very different. But when it comes to you're just a free daycare, be unafraid to say no. Be unafraid to say, yeah, I'm going golfing with the girls today. So no, look for another babysitter. Because you deserve your life as well. Yeah. Whenever you do not set boundaries, you're people pleasing. And if you're people pleasing, you will be miserable. You will not be authentic with yourself. So you are going to be judged no matter what. Be judged for being a strong woman.
Oh, absolutely. And, to say, well, gee, I would like to, but I can't do it today. I have plans, and this is something I would really like to do. You're not being selfish.
No.
And I again, talking to different clients, this is where some of them are coming from. Oh, but if I don't do it, my child, and, they need to have a life and they need to do this. Well, yeah, so do you.
Yeah. Yeah, they're afraid to disappoint. They're afraid to let their kids down. Yeah. And that all comes with the whole people-pleasing aspect of their personality. Mm-hmm. But their kids are going to be just fine. You, as a grandparent, when you were young going through child rearing as well, mm-hmm. you didn't have that support system. You didn't have someone coming over and making things easy for you as much as perhaps you want your parents to do, or today's younger generations want their parents to do. If you did have it, by all means, great for you, but most people didn't have it and they had to deal with it on their own and they were just fine.
Well, they were. I had good support. My parents were actually better grandparents.
I was just going to say that when parents are afraid of screwing up, they don't realize that most people grow up to be better grandparents. Sure, it's the second time around. You already learned all the bad lessons.
Right. And it's like, well, yeah, I can spoil your child and then I send them home and you've got to deal with it.
Oh, absolutely. I love being the aunt because I get to send them home.
Exactly. And it's like, I don't have to worry about it and I'm not getting stressed out. And I have the time because I've not been at work all day, because I obviously can pick and choose my own hours.
Yes.
And I think you have more patience when you're a grandparent.
Yes.
And I know there's times my kids have said to me, well, you weren't like that with us. You wouldn't get away with that. Well, no, but I had to deal with you.
Yes, yes. And it's different when you are on the outside of things to look at things with more perspective than when you're involved in the situation as the parent. Nobody ever wants to listen to their parents. They listen to grandma and grandpa. They don't listen to their parents.
Well,
Yeah, it's like our spouse doesn't listen to us. They'll listen to a stranger, but they won't listen to us. And that's how things go.
My husband and I have been going through this over the past couple of weeks. And I've told him something, and he's just kind of let it in one ear and out the other. And then he went to see the physiotherapist, and she told him the exact same thing. And I just looked at him. Yeah. Well, and she looked at him. She said, then you better start listening to your wife.
My husband and I do the exact same thing. If it comes from somebody else, oh, so-and-so said, and, and then I look at him and I go, I just said that last week. And, oh, did you?
I know. You think, in particular, with what we do, right, that they would listen to us.
Well, yeah, if.
And it can be funny at times, really. But I'm just looking at the things that you do here, because you, like I say, you do so many wonderful things. Yeah, medical intuition. Now, we did touch on that a little bit, and obviously you're empathic.
Yes.
Which, for anyone who's not sure of the term, when you're empathic, it means that you physically feel. And
everything.
Hospitals are an absolute nightmare.
Oof.
Oh, they are. If my husband has to go in, it's like, I can't stay in there the whole time. A little while, and then I've got to go out to the car. I've got to clear the energies. I've got to put protections, and it's tiring.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of pain and suffering, obviously, in hospitals. Nobody goes there because they're okay.
Mm-hmm. So now, if someone comes to you, or they come for a reading and they want to know about health, how do you go about it?
So because we're not doctors, so I don't diagnose. I don't give a prognosis at all. But my focus is on describing their symptoms, identifying where I feel inflammation. And when there's inflammation, there usually is pain or discomfort.
Yeah.
And then I give them possible options for complementing what they are already doing, or if they haven't gotten any answers from anybody else, because that's often why people come to see me.
Yeah.
Nobody has been able to give them either a proper diagnosis, or what they're doing medically is not working, or let's say working fast enough. So I focus again on describing their symptoms. And because I do have a very good knowledge of anatomy, because my background is in healthcare, I talk about their symptoms. I actually see and look into their body. So spirit sometimes pulls out the organ and shows me like a 3D version. I call myself like a walking MRI. I will see the organ from different angles, and then they'll pull it back, or they'll just point to the organ, and then I know that there's something going on with that organ. Sometimes they're aware of it, sometimes they're not. So when I ask, and when I do readings, I like to ask instead of say, oh, you have, or you do, because it's very triggering for people. So I'll use the simplest example. Instead of saying to someone, oh, you're stubborn, aren't you? I'll say, would people say that you are stubborn? Would you? And then they're like, oh, yes, all the time, versus if I said, oh, you're stubborn. So when I see inflammation in their body, and I refer to it as inflammation, it's like, have you been experiencing pain in the liver area? Sometimes I don't even know where their liver is, and so I have to point it to the liver, and they go, oh yeah, I've been getting these jabbing pains. And I said, have you thought of going to the doctor and talking to your doctor about it?
Yeah.
Because your doctor then might look at your symptoms and say, I think it might be a good idea to do diagnostics on this. And I go, oh, okay, well, thank you. And when spirit shows me certain things, obviously I know on with more detail, but I cannot tell them unless they've already been diagnosed that.
Yeah.
You know, like if they tell me I have cancer and I'm like, okay, so you've been diagnosed with cancer. So this is, you know, have they said of where it's at? Like and it's more, again, asking versus saying, because they may not be aware yet that something is happening in part of their body. So if they're feeling any symptoms, and sometimes what I see hasn't happened yet. So I ask them, if you know, my suggestion is if you do happen to experience anything like this in the future, then you may want to get checked right away. Sometimes, though, because we do pick up energy from everybody else around us when we don't do energetic cleansing, I may be picking up information about a loved one or someone they work with, somebody close to them. So I asked them, if it's not you, is there somebody close to you that or that you are spending time with that has these symptoms? And then they'll go, oh my God, yeah, that's my coworker, or that's my son, or that's my daughter. And I had a woman recently, she came back after a year and she said, Gaby, I just want to let you know that last year you kept asking me, what's going on with your uterus? I'm sensing inflammation in your uterus. And I kept saying, nothing. There's nothing wrong with my uterus. And you said, please humor me and go to your doctor and get checked. And I said, and she said, I ended up having cancer in my uterus. And thanks to getting checked right at that time, they were able to, like, it was very quick. I got treated and I'm here today. And I said, well, I'm glad that, but I don't diagnose.
No, I don't. It's a wonderful gift that you have, though, where you can actually see the organ.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful because I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get the feeling and, you know, the pain and things like that.
Yeah, I actually scan their body on the inside and I start seeing either their bones or their tissues, their circulatory and lymphatic system. So I see everything as I'm scanning it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I say, I don't see it, I just feel it. But I had a similar instance as you where I had said to someone, look, you need to get your throat checked. Are you having trouble with your throat? And they're no. And I said, well, you need to just go get it looked at.
Yeah.
And of course, knowing me and what I did, she did. And same thing, she had cancer in her throat. And she said to me afterwards, she said, you know, you saved my life.
Mm.
And obviously it's something that was meant to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And absolutely nobody comes out of coincidence. I always tell them that you're going to get the message that you need to hear, not the one you want to hear. Hopefully they match.
Yeah.
I had another lady many, many years ago. She came to me, she was 84 and she had been diagnosed with cancer. And she said, I want to know how long I've got. And I said, whoa, honey, you're asking the wrong question. She said, what do you mean? I said, you should be asking, what should I be doing from now until the end? Because no one has any guarantees in life.
Nope.
I have seen people go from stage 5D cancer to full remission in a month. And I healed from an autoimmune condition that I was told was uncurable. And within 6 months, I was in full remission, and I was told that they'd never seen a case go into remission so quickly. You know, I've seen, and it's not just the only case of cancer that I've seen going into, you know, full remission in a month. There's countless numbers of people that can go from that to full health. There's no guarantees with anything. So ask me. And right away she said, well, I want to divorce my husband. I said, then go divorce him.
Yeah.
She said, I want to travel the world. Then go travel.
Exactly. I remember one time I was doing a psychic fair at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman came to my booth and she wanted to know how she was going to die.
Mm.
And I just looked at her and I said, shortness of breath. And she looked at me and what? I said, well, you're going to stop breathing. never mind focusing on how you're going to die. How are you going to live?
Yes.
That is where you need to put your focus on. Focus on life, not death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet there are people who have unbased fears of death and dying and getting sick. So
I think you froze. Okay. Yeah, it seems that Gaby has frozen. I don't know if
you want something badly enough, you will get it. So stop focusing. And I always talk to clients about focusing on the solutions, focusing on the positive versus the negativity, the things they don't want. So if you don't want to lose all your money, then start focusing on having lots of money and already having it, not looking for ways of making the money. I tell them, visualize money raining on you.
Absolutely, because you always want to put it in the now. Now, you were saying, like, state of mind really is a huge thing, especially with illnesses. Now, about 3 weeks ago, my husband had a dizzy spell. He collapsed. He fell. He's 88. All right.
Okay. Oh.
And I do understand a fear of falling. I mean, I have it myself. But he lost a lot of blood. He had I would say, a pretty severe concussion.
Oof.
And he was so afraid of falling. And I know 88 is not young. Okay.
No.
It is old. But he never acted like an old man. But this fear had turned him into a really old man. And I was getting frustrated. I was sending him Reiki, healing energies. I had friends that were, and it was just bouncing off because he wasn't allowing it to come in.
Yeah.
I got mad at him. And he just wasn't doing anything. And all of a sudden, he went to see the physiotherapist, and she told him what I had been telling him. So, of course, he listened. And, it made, because all of a sudden it was like, yeah, I am going to get better. I'm not going to be like this the rest of my life. I'm getting help. And all of a sudden, there was that change in mindset. And it was 100% improvement. I mean, he still gets the odd dizzy spell, but he was getting them 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. And he was, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. And I'm thinking, oh, for the love of God, yes, you can. But it is mindset. I mean, we can, it's like, as psychics, as intuitives, we can tell people. But it's up to them to listen and up to them to take the action.
Right. So that's another huge thing that I encourage anyone in any helping field is don't attach to the outcome. Our job as readers is strictly to deliver the message. What they do with the message is completely up to them. It's not for me to control your life. I had someone asking me about their career path once, and it was a girlfriend, boyfriend team that came in. Now, she had come in for the reading. He just came in to humor her. And I said, which one of the two of you is actually thinking of going into environmental law? And they're like, no. And then I looked at him and I said, you. I said, what do you do right now? So he told me, and I said, what did you do what did you want to become before you decided to take on this job that pays the bills? And he said, I wanted to become an environmental officer. And I said, what part of that is not environmental law? And he said, well, I thought you meant a lawyer. I said, you're implementing the law, but it's environmental law at the end of it. Yeah. And I said, look, you can choose whichever path you want in life. There is no getting it wrong. But if you choose to study environmental law, the universe is going to open the doors for you to get this job. And he goes, it's so hard to get in. I said, that's a limiting belief. Your job is to follow the breadcrumbs. When you say, yes, I will do this, I said, because you're an environmental warrior. Yeah. So when you choose to this path, everything will open up for it'll be so easy to get it. You're going to go, I don't know how I got this job because it's so hard to get in. I said, but you need to choose it. I can't force you to go and study environmental officer training. I said, you to choose it.
Yeah. But
if you do, this is what I see you living like. Amazing. You live obviously in nature because you cannot live in a city. It would kill your soul to live in a city. And so everything that I saw, I described for them. And then I could tell that she was a little bit nervous. And I looked at her and I said, don't worry, you'll still have your house, because her worry was about financial security. And I said, you will always reach your financial goals as long as you are on par with what you're meant to be doing in this lifetime. The money is secondary to what your purpose is.
Yes, very much. Very much.
But once you say yes, the universe just puts all the pieces together for you.
Yeah. One of the things that I tell my clients is, as an intuitive, I see possibilities and probabilities. And as an individual, you have that power of choice and decision.
Yeah.
So you can look at something I'm saying and say, oh, no, I don't want to do that, and make the decisions to go in a different direction. However, if this is something, if it's karma involved, if this is your life path, you'll end up back there one way or the other. So,
yeah.
When something's meant, the universe doesn't give up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I have seen that many times.
I use my own example where I didn't want to become a professional reader. I was being told by my mentors that I was going to do this. And I said, oh, no, no way. And then one day I just said to Source, I looked up and I said, look, if I'm meant to be doing this, then you better show me the way, because I don't know how to go about this. And I was so afraid of letting people down too. Yeah. 2 days later, I was on a professional circuit.
Yeah. Same here with resistance to doing this. Well, I couldn't keep a job if my life depended on it. And I'd never been fired. I'd never had problems keeping a job. But it was like, hey, you're fired. No, this isn't working. Company was going bankrupt. I left. They picked up again. And it's relentless. And when it's something that you're meant to do.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Gaby, we have come to the end of the show, and I would like to thank you so much for being a guest. It was wonderful speaking with you. And once again, if you can just quickly give out your contact information.
Yes, Gaby Pineda, GabyPineda.ca.
All right, thank you. And everybody, we'll see you the next time. And remember, keep laughter in your heart, because it really is life's best medicine.
It is. Bye-bye.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
There aren't many hospitals left in this town that are willing to take a risk on you.
Mondays on City TV.
We have a new attending, Dr. Oliver Wolf.
Dr. Wolf? Wolf?